Good evening. We begin with a historic and dramatic transformation at the very heart of British power. Andy Burnham has officially crossed the threshold of number 10 Downing Street, becoming the United Kingdom's new Prime Minister. His rapid ascent follows a tumultuous and swift collapse in public support for Keir Starmer. Facing severe internal party criticism, Starmer delivered a brief, solemn departure speech before heading to Buckingham Palace to tender his resignation to King Charles. Moments later, the political landscape underwent a total cultural reset. Andy Burnham stepped forward to greet a roaring crowd of staffers and supporters packed into Downing Street. The atmosphere was electric, charged with what pollsters are already confirming as a genuine Burnham bounce. Data reveals that Labour's polling numbers have surged back into a strong lead, a massive leap from the dismal figures recorded just weeks ago. Standing before the famous Black Door, Prime Minister Burnham positioned himself not just as a new leader, but as a radical circuit breaker for a nation weary of political turbulence. In his inaugural address, Burnham promised a fundamental shift away from the traditional Westminster model, pledging to build a brand new political and economic framework for the country. He declared that his administration will prioritize immediate cost of living relief, a 10-year plan to reindustrialize the UK, and a massive expansion of council housing. In an unexpected, high-stakes move, Burnham's very first policy pledge on the steps of Downing Street was a vow to completely eradicate rough sleeping across the nation, backing the claim with a swift £340 million funding injection carved directly out of the budget. The transition has also triggered an extraordinary structural shakeup within the government itself. Burnham has completely cleared out key former loyalists, initiating a sweeping round of ministerial appointments to bring fresh faces into the administration. In a move that caught Westminster completely by surprise, John Healey has been appointed as the new Chancellor. Alongside Healey, Ed Miliband takes over as Foreign Secretary, while Louise Hay rises to run the Cabinet Office. This is a cabinet heavily dominated by the north and northwest of England, a physical manifestation of Burnham's core philosophy, often described as Manchesterism. The new Prime Minister has wasted no time. Within hours of taking charge, he was on the phone to global leaders, reinforcing international commitments and addressing critical supply chain vulnerabilities. Mainstream politics in Britain is facing what Burnham himself calls its absolute last chance to deliver. The new Prime Minister has openly warned his party that if this administration fails to steady the ship, populist forces will be waiting to take power next. The Burnham era has begun, and the stakes could not possibly be higher. At the very core of Andy Burnham's premiership is an ambitious project to dismantle the traditional British state. In a bold move that has stunned Westminster, the Prime Minister has announced that his plans to radically decentralize power strengthen the case for Britain to adopt a formal written constitution. For centuries, the United Kingdom has relied on an unwritten web of conventions and traditions. But Burnham argues that this system centralizes far too much authority in London, leaving the rest of the nation financially starved and politically ignored. To correct this imbalance, the new administration is launching an unprecedented wave of fiscal devolution. Under the new proposals, regional mayors across the country will be granted sweeping new powers. They will gain direct control over local transport networks, industrial strategies, and housing development goals. Crucially, the Treasury is also exploring plans to allow combined authorities to retain a direct share of local income tax. This would break Westminster's total financial monopoly and allow regions to fund their own public services directly from the wealth they generate. However, this massive shift in constitutional power is already generating fierce national debate. News publishers and media watchdogs have issued a stark warning to the government. They argue that if regional mayors are to be given billions of pounds in autonomous spending power, local media requires immediate financial support to effectively hold these newly empowered leaders to account. Without robust local journalism, critics warn that devolution risks creating powerful regional fiefdoms with zero public oversight. The reality of this new regional political battlefield has already been tested in Burnham's former stronghold. In the Greater Manchester mayoral by-election, held to choose Burnham's successor, Labour's Bev Craig successfully claimed victory, securing 47% of the first preference votes. But behind the victory lies a serious warning for the government. Labor's vote share in the region collapsed by 16 percentage points compared to Burnham's dominant performance in 2024. The data highlights a rapidly changing political landscape. Voters are shifting toward a raw form of bloc politics, with Reform UK making significant gains among working-class communities. Burnham's devolution revolution is designed to reconnect people with politics, but it is also unleashing unpredictable electoral forces that could reshape British democracy forever. While constitutional reform dominates the headlines, the ultimate survival of the Burnham administration depends entirely on the economy. Chancellor John Healey is facing a brutal financial landscape. In a dramatic display of early authority, the Prime Minister and his Chancellor have issued a stern, joint memorandum to all government departments. The message was unmistakable. Ministers must strictly adhere to existing departmental spending limits. Healey has made it clear that there will be no extra borrowing to bail out overstretched budgets. Every single policy must be fully costed ahead of the upcoming emergency budget, scheduled for the 28th of October. This strict fiscal discipline is designed to reassure global financial markets that the new Labour administration will meet its fiscal rules. However, it is already causing immense friction inside the cabinet, as ministers face the grim reality of managing public services with severely restricted funds. But Chancellor Healey is not just focusing on internal government discipline, he is also turning his sights directly on corporate Britain. In a major policy speech, Healey issued a direct, high-stakes warning to the nation's biggest supermarket chains. The government is deeply concerned about escalating geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, which threaten to disrupt international shipping routes and spike global supply costs. Healey warned supermarkets that the government will not tolerate these global disruptions being used as an excuse to artificially inflate food prices at home. He declared that the administration will use national regulators to clamp down heavily on any evidence of corporate price gouging. This aggressive, consumer-focused intervention is part of Burnham's wider strategy to protect struggling households from inflation. But it has already drawn sharp criticism from business leaders, who warn that heavy-handed market regulation could stifle retail investment. At the same time, the administration's economic strategy is facing its very first internal political crisis. A minor backbench revolt is brewing over energy policy. To the surprise of many environmental activists, Prime Minister Burnham has signaled an apparent willingness to support ongoing oil and gas drilling in the North Sea. Burnham views this as a vital economic bridge to protect British energy security and safeguard thousands of highly skilled industrial jobs. However, this pragmatic stance has triggered immediate tension within his own team. Miata Fahnbulleh has officially stepped into the cabinet as the new net zero secretary. Fahnbulleh is a staunch advocate for a rapid green transition, and her appointment sets up a fascinating, high-stakes ideological battle at the heart of government. As the October budget approaches, Healey must find a way to balance strict financial limits, corporate accountability, and industrial survival, a high-wire act that will define the financial future of the nation. As the Burnham administration reshapes the economy, it is also executing significant pivots across the legal landscape and international diplomacy. The Prime Minister has signaled an immediate, fundamental shift in how the state handles civil liberties and the justice system. In a recent address, Burnham stated that his clear instinct is to completely reverse a highly controversial plan introduced by the previous administration, which sought to limit certain jury trials across England and Wales. The previous policy had been designed to clear a massive backlog in the courts by shifting minor offenses to single magistrate hearings. However, it drew fierce condemnation from civil liberties groups and legal professionals, who argued it eroded a fundamental cornerstone of British justice. By signaling a U-turn, Burnham is attempting to draw a sharp line between his administration and his predecessor, positioning himself as a defender of traditional legal rights, even if it complicates the court backlog crisis. Meanwhile, a massive legal and diplomatic battle has finally concluded in the heart of London, with profound implications for the UK's foreign policy. The High Court has officially upheld the government's decision to greenlight a massive new Chinese embassy site at the historic Old Royal Mint. Located directly opposite the Tower of London, the proposed complex is set to become China's largest diplomatic mission in Europe. The project had been stalled for years due to intense pushback from local residents, human rights activists, and security hawk MPS, who cited severe concerns over cyber surveillance, local policing, and geopolitical symbolism. The local council had initially rejected the application on safety and heritage grounds. However, the High Court's ruling effectively sweeps aside those local objections, confirming that the national government's planning approval stands. This ruling hands the Burnham administration an immediate diplomatic tightrope. The Prime Minister must now balance the reality of a massive, heavily fortified Chinese diplomatic compound operating right next to the nation's financial center, while trying to stabilize crucial trade relations with Beijing. With legal reversals at home and high-stakes diplomacy on the doorstep, the new government is quickly learning that every domestic decision carries global weight. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful or entertaining. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below and let me know what you'd like to see next. Thanks again for your support. It really means a lot. Until next time, take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.